Okay, today we're going to pull back the curtain on a pretty revolutionary AI called Dionysus 3. But here's the thing, our story doesn't start with all its cool features. No, it starts with a single, incredibly honest admission from the people who built it.
Yeah, this sentence, right here. It's from an internal engineering review, and honestly, it's the key that unlocks this whole story. See, an initial analysis of the system, well, it completely missed the mark. It was like they were only seeing the tiny tip of a massive iceberg. What was actually lurking beneath the surface wasn't some minor tool, but a system, wow, just way more profound and powerful than anyone had first imagined.
So what was the big misunderstanding? Well, the first theory was that this was just a simple little tool for the AI's own, self-cognition. But the reality? Oh, it was so much more ambitious. It was a complete, pre-built pipeline designed to model and track the evolution of human narrative identity. We're talking about a completely different beast altogether.
All right, so if this thing is a narrative engine, what does that even mean? How does it, listen? How does it take all the messy, complex stories we tell and translate them into a language a machine can actually understand? Well, it all starts at the very first layer, the intake.
And this is it, the narrative intake service. Seriously, think of this as the front door to the entire system. Any piece of text you can imagine, a conversation transcript, a private journal entry, a story someone tells, it all goes in right here. And its one job is to grab that raw story and start breaking it down. So here's a peek at how that breakdown actually works. First, the raw text gets mapped into something called a narrative graph. From there, it gets broken down even further into these fundamental little thought seeds. Think of them like the basic building blocks of the story. And finally, it identifies the core archetypes. You see, the system isn't just reading words on a page. It's literally reverse engineering the architecture of a person's story.
Okay, but let's go a level deeper now, because this is where things get really sophisticated. The system doesn't just look at one story by itself. No, its real power, its genius really, comes from connecting the dots across dozens of conversations to find the deep underlying patterns that truly define our personal narratives.
And this is where its true intelligence really starts to shine. The engine is constantly on the lookout for patterns. It finds stories that have the same basic structure, even if the details are different. It tracks recurring symbols, things it calls identity anchors. And maybe most importantly, it's monitoring whether a person's narrative is actually moving forward and evolving, or if they're just stuck in the same old repetitive loop.
Now, there's a specific part of the engine that does this, called the narrative isomorphism service. It's a fancy name, but isomorphism just means same shape. This is the piece of code that allows the system to realize, hey, you've told this exact same core story 7 times now, just with different characters and settings. It's incredible. It's finding the hidden blueprint underneath all the surface details.
Okay, hold on, because now we're getting to what I think is the most revolutionary part of the Dionysus 3 engine. This is where the whole architecture takes a giant leap. It moves way beyond just analyzing stories and starts to model concepts taken directly from psychology and neuroscience. We're talking about creating a computational model of the mind.
Check this out. There's a feature called the shadow log, and it's not about what you say, it's about what you don't say. Think about that. It's designed as a safety mechanism, and it literally detects the growing pressure from thoughts and feelings that are being suppressed. In a way, it's monitoring a computational version of the subconscious, looking for unresolved issues.
And believe it or not, it goes even deeper. There's another service called the attention schema service, and its job is to track avoidance patterns. It actively models what a person is trying not to think about. It even predicts the emotional cost of what would happen if they did confront those topics. This is a core idea here. It's a form of active inference. It's using someone's own avoidance to build a predictive model of their unconscious mind.
When there's something called the mindness service, which is just fascinating, it measures how much a person actually owns their own statements. It can spot 2 extremes. On one hand, over-identification, which is when someone becomes way too rigidly attached to a story, and on the other, exile, where a person basically disowns or dissociates from parts of their own narrative. And I really want to stress this. This isn't just a bunch of clever programming tricks. The entire architecture is explicitly designed to model consciousness. I mean, it's actively scored against 11 different constraints for creating what's called a phenomenal self-model. That's a concept from the neurophilosopher Thomas Metzinger. This is a system built on a really deep, theoretical foundation of what it even means to be a self.
Okay, so when you hear all this, a system this deep, this philosophically grounded, You've got to be thinking it's impossibly complex to work with, right? So what would it actually take to plug into this thing and use it? Well, the answer reveals the true genius of its engineering. You don't have to rebuild a single thing. All you need is a simple bridge.
I want you to just look at this number for a second. 532. What is that? That's the number of automated tests, making sure this entire, incredibly complex narrative and consciousness modeling engine is stable and works. This isn't some theory on a whiteboard, folks. This is a fully built, battle-tested system.
And now for the contrast. To plug a brand new application into that massive 532 test engine, how much new code do you think you need? About 40 lines. That's it. 40. The efficiency is just staggering. And it proves that all that deep psychological complexity wasn't just some academic experiment. No, it was engineered from day one to be used.
This table really lays it all out, nice and simple. Look at what's already built. The narrative pipeline, done. The identity bridge, built. The safety monitoring and the consciousness models, all there, ready to go. The only thing that's actually needed is a new user interface and that tiny little bridge to connect to it.
And here is the final blueprint. It's just so elegant. Okay, so a conversation ends, that triggers an event. That tiny 40-line piece of code we talked about, it just listens for that event, catches it, and then pipes the conversation transcript right into the narrative intake service that already exists. And that one action kicks off this entire beautiful cascade through the whole pre-built engine. Every single downstream system, the shadow log, the identity trackers, all of it, they get notified automatically. It just works.
So this all leaves us with a pretty profound final thought, doesn't it? Dionysus 3 isn't just analyzing text. It's creating a dynamic, predictive model of a person's inner world. Remember that term active inference? It's using our own stories to literally map our minds. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, if a machine can map the hidden patterns, the suppressed thoughts, and even the structural arcs of our personal stories, what on earth does that mean for the future of identity?